Today, they're cinematic landmarks, but one was nearly sold to TV for pennies, and another was so hated it ended its director's career. These are the stories of 10 British films that went from certified flops to required viewing. Despite winning the Palme d'Or at Cannes, the film If was too radical for its home audience. Its call for anarchic rebellion proved divisive, and it struggled to find commercial success. On a tight budget of around £200,000, director Lindsay Anderson made a film that was fundamentally unmarketable. Its commercial problem was simple. It was built to challenge, not entertain. The narrative was deliberately fractured, with surrealism and jarring shifts between color and black and white that left mainstream viewers confused. The story didn't just critique the establishment, it held it in open contempt, alienating the very audience it needed. Anderson offered no sympathetic hero, only the cold, anarchic energy of a young Malcolm McDowell. It was a film that played exclusively to the art house crowd, guaranteeing it would never achieve mainstream success. And that's why, despite its initial rejection, it has become a cornerstone of counterculture cinema. If is a blistering, allegorical assault on tradition and conformity, perfectly capturing the revolutionary spirit of its time. One of the most audacious and influential films in British history. The Who's rock opera was the blueprint. The film it inspired, Frank Rodham's Quadrophenia, was a different beast entirely. Based on the classic album, its raw depiction of teenage angst, drug use, and tribal violence was too abrasive for many critics, and it failed to become the international breakout its producers hoped for. Rodham rejected the rock opera format. For just £350,000, he crafted a slice of British kitchen sink drama, using The Who's music as the internal monologue for his desperate hero. The film's power rested on Phil Daniels' raw nerve performance as Jimmy, a working-class kid searching for identity in pills, suits, and seaside riots. That specificity resonated in the UK, but meant little to American audiences. They expected a rock show, and got a grim, brilliant character study instead. And yet, despite its initial commercial struggles, Quadrophenia has become the definitive film about British youth culture. Its authentic, angry energy and iconic final scene have resonated through generations, cementing its status as a cultural landmark and a perfect snapshot of the mod movement. In 1973, a film arrived so far ahead of its time, it was destined to fail. Theatre of Blood was a campy, graphically theatrical horror comedy about a Shakespearean actor who murders his critics in absurdly over-the-top ways. Audiences and critics dismissed it as tasteless trash, and it fizzled at the box office. The film's problem was its refusal to pick a lane. It wasn't straight horror, but literary satire, cleverly casting British stage legends only to kill them off. Vincent Price was born for the lead role, perfectly balancing high art performance with genuine menace, yet the humor was a tough sell. Full of inside jokes about the British theater scene, it went over many viewers' heads. American audiences, the market that mattered most, weren't looking for a monologue before a murder. They wanted a clear-cut monster. Today, Theatre of Blood is celebrated as the cult classic it always deserved to be. Its audacious style and clever wit have finally found their audience, and Price's gleeful performance is rightly hailed as a career best. It stands as a hilarious, sharply pointed jab at the pomposity of critics, a perfect fusion of high art and bloody murder. Warner Bros. Executives were so horrified by a film, a sexually fluid, narratively fractured head trip of a crime film called Performance, that they shelved it for 2 years. When it was finally released, audiences and critics were completely baffled, and it bombed. This was the brainchild of Donald Cammell and Nicholas Roeg, who used Roeg's splintered editing style to destroy a simple gangster-on-the-run narrative. They took a straight-laced James Fox and threw him into a decadent Notting Hill townhouse with Mick Jagger at his most androgynous and menacing. The identity crisis wasn't just on screen, it was in the film's DNA. The studio had put up $2 million expecting a gritty crime thriller. What they got was an art installation. It's no surprise it tanked, earning back barely $700,000 in US rentals. This wasn't about watching another world, it was about being swallowed by it. What began as a studio nightmare became a cult revelation, a groundbreaking, avant-garde farewell to the swinging 60s. Blurring the lines between gangster thriller and psychedelic art film, Performance remains a bold, disorienting work that redefined the boundaries of British cinema. Let's talk about a film the studio literally tried to bury. Robin Hardy's The Wicker Man. The studio hated it, the producers butchered the edit, and it was dumped as the bottom half of a double bill with practically zero marketing. It was made to disappear, and for years it did. Shot for less than £450,000, the film was a nightmare for executives. It wasn't a slasher, it was a slow-burn musical mystery ending in human sacrifice. They had no idea how to sell it, so they hacked out around 15 minutes of crucial footage to create a shorter, incoherent version for the double bill.
But when the film was finished, and I saw it, I thought there was an enormous amount of film missing. I would think at least 15 to 20 minutes.
The original negative was lost, famously rumored to be buried under the M3 motorway. The only reason it survived was Christopher Lee. He took no salary and spent years personally hunting down a surviving print, refusing to let it die.
So when I saw it, I spoke to the producer, Peter Snell, I spoke to the director, Robin Hardy, and I spoke to the editor. I spoke to Mr. Schaffer, and I said, let's try and find the negative. And what we call the outtakes, the bits you don't use, but you print them. Never been seen again. Never. Never been seen. They couldn't write it. And that's 30 years ago. Nearly. I still believe it exists somewhere in cans with no name. But I still believe that. But nobody's ever seen it since. So we couldn't recut it, re-edit it, which is what I wanted to do. It would have been 10 times as good.
In 2013, Studio Canal tracked down an uncut 102-minute print of The Wicker Man, with director Robin Hardy helping in the search. This led to The Wicker Man: The Final Cut, restoring footage never before seen in UK theaters or home video. The undisputed apex of folk horror. Rescued from cinematic oblivion by devoted fans, The Wicker Man is now hailed as a uniquely terrifying and intelligent masterpiece, using its pastoral setting to build unbearable, mounting dread. One of the greatest British horror films ever made. Here's the story of a film that had to fail. Bruce Robinson's Withnail and I was released to near total public indifference.
I'm a trained actor reduced to the status of a bum.
This dialogue-heavy black comedy about two unemployed alcoholic actors on a disastrous holiday was a certified box office bomb, losing almost half its budget. It was simply too strange to find an audience.
Get in the back of the van!
The problem was its brutal honesty. Robinson wasn't writing fiction. He was documenting his own squalid life as a broke actor, pouring desperation and the ever-present damp into every frame. Richard E. Grant gave a legendary manic performance as Withnail, perfectly balanced by Paul McGann's weary observer. But the film offered no happy ending, no career breakthrough. It was a portrait of failure that ended in failure. Audiences in the 80s, hungry for escapism, rejected it. It cost over £1 million to make and barely grossed half of that back. An art house postcard from hell. Now it stands as the ultimate cult film. Through word of mouth, Withnail and I has become one of Britain's most quoted and beloved comedies. A perfect, melancholic portrait of failure, friendship, and the death of a decade.
We want the finest wines available to humanity. We want them here, and we want them now.
For years, British gangster films were stylish fantasies, full of charming rogues in sharp suits. But in 1971, Mike Hodges shattered that dream with Get Carter, hitting the screen with the brutal, bleak efficiency of a loaded shotgun. It dragged the genre from swinging London into the grimy, rain-soaked reality of Northern England. The film's power came from rejecting glamour entirely. Hodges moved the story out of London, shooting against the grey, industrial backdrop of Newcastle. This was not a stylish underworld. It was back-alley deals and harsh reality. Then there was Kane, wielding his star power to create a true monster.
Who paid you to see me off?
A reptilian professional with no charm, no wink to the camera. Audiences were not ready. The violence was ugly, the hero was a villain, and its £460,000 budget never translated into box office success.
You're a big man, but you're in bad shape.
It wasn't just a gangster film, it was the movie that dragged British cinema, kicking and screaming into the 1970s. Get Carter became the benchmark for all British gangster films that followed. Michael Caine's cold, methodical Jack Carter is iconic, and the film's unsentimental realism permanently stripped the glamour from the British underworld. It's hard to believe now, but Michael Powell's Peeping Tom was so psychologically disturbing and so morally repellent to 1960s critics that they didn't just pan it, they actively campaigned to have it destroyed.
Mark?
Don't be shy.
Overnight, one of Britain's most celebrated directors was finished. Michael Powell, a titan of British cinema, made this film for just £135,000 and paid for it with his career. His crime wasn't the on-screen violence, it was complicity. By showing the murders through the killer's own camera, he made the audience the voyeur. Hitchcock's Psycho kept viewers at a safe distance. Powell's film handed you the weapon. In the words of its great champion Martin Scorsese, it is an absolutely lucid picture about the danger of making art. A profoundly uncomfortable critique of the act of watching itself. In 1960, that critique was seen as a sickness. Today, we see it for what it truly is. A masterpiece born in the wrong decade. Peeping Tom is required viewing for its chillingly prescient exploration of voyeurism, violence, and the cinematic gaze. A terrifying, brilliant film that was simply ahead of its time. Critical acclaim doesn't sell tickets. For proof, look at Bill Forsyth's 1983 film, Local Hero. Here was a movie critics adored but audiences ignored. Its gentle pace, whimsical humor, and melancholic charm were completely out of step with the bombastic blockbusters of the era, causing it to quietly fade from cinemas. The film's genius was in subverting expectations. It sets up a simple story. A slick American oil exec comes to buy a Scottish village, and then inverts it. The villagers are shrewd capitalists. The city guy falls for the Northern Lights. Producer David Putnam gave Forsyth a $4.5 million budget, but the problem remained. How do you market melancholy? In America, it made just under $6 million. It didn't bomb, it just vanished. Not even Burt Lancaster, as the stargazing oil baron, could convince people to show up.
Keep an eye on Virgo form.
The northern sky is a beautiful thing, Macintosh.
But the very quietness that made it a commercial liability became the secret to its endurance. Local Hero has grown into one of Britain's most cherished films. A perfectly pitched comedy drama that balances quirkiness with a profound sense of place. Its reputation rose from commercial disappointment to undisputed classic. Some films are so dangerous, their own backers try to kill them. Finished in 1979, John Mackenzie's The Long Good Friday was shelved for over a year, its financiers terrified of the IRA storyline. They tried to sell it to TV for pennies, but a press screening saved it from oblivion. This is more than a gangster picture. It's a brutally sharp state-of-the-nation address. Bob Hoskins is Harold Shand, an ambitious gangster with a grand vision for London's decaying docklands.
Hands across the ocean, right?
To the future.
At his side is Helen Mirren's Victoria, not a typical gangster's girlfriend, but a sharp, posh partner representing the marriage of crime and the aspirational middle class. But he's an old-world bulldog, blindsided by a new kind of political terror. This conflict is what terrified his financiers. To save their £930,000 investment for the American market, they tried to gut the IRA plot. Incredibly, they even attempted to dub Bob Hoskins' iconic London growl, viewing the film's very soul as a commercial liability. But they failed to see what the film truly was. Bob Hoskins gives a volcanic, star-making performance as Harold Shand,
Well, now there's been an eruption!
a man whose empire and the old Britain he embodies crumbles over one brutal Easter weekend. A tough, intelligent, and prophetic masterpiece. It remains the greatest British gangster film ever made. From buried reels to beloved classics, these films prove failure isn't the end. It's the beginning of legend. Revisit them, share the story, and subscribe to VintageVerse to keep Britain's cinematic rebellion alive.